New Lies of P patch. Is the game really too difficult?
Lies of P is officially easier now because you complained enough. So the devs of Lies of P officially put out a new patch today, and they made a whole bunch of changes. Starting with things like simple balancing and some enemies having less health, and an increase.
Well, yeah, they just made a lot of the bosses have less health and do less damage. Straight up.
At breaking some of the monster's stance, even increasing the staggerable window time. Even something small.
I think the staggerable window time is a good idea because it always felt really bad whenever, and like this is the problem, right? Is that Lies of P was designed to be played like Bloodborne, and almost no attacks in the game give you hyper armor. And because no attacks in the game give you hyper armor, using a big weapon is just stupid. Like, it doesn't really like, you can do it, sure, you can do it, but it's just inferior in like every way. So the problem is that if you had a heavy weapon, hitting that stagger with the like the charged heavy attack was like 5x harder. Yeah, because there's no pulleys. Exactly. Lies of P doesn't have iframes either. Yes, it does. It absolutely has iframes.
The dimensional butterflies have less health now.
Yeah.
That's just regular enemies. They even decreased a lot of the bosses as well.
Yeah.
The Fallen Archbishop.
Of Archbishop Andreas, decreased HP of King of Puppets in the first phase, decreased HP of Simon Manus, Arm of God, decreased the damage of Simon Manus, Awakened God, increased the chance to break stance, increased the Spectre's HP and damage. I think the 2-phase fights, like, yeah, probably, because it does kind of suck, like, having to go through a whole first phase just to learn the second phase, and I think it's, like, especially soul-crushing with King of Puppets, because of just, like, how brutal Romeo is. Because, like, Romeo, like, I would say King of Puppets is the first actual big difficulty jump in the game. Like, yeah, the Archbishop is kind of hard, but I think King of Puppets is like, way, way, way harder.
King of Puppets, Simon, all have decreased health. And even your Spectre, your NPC that you can spawn in, has increased health and does more damage.
Yeah.
I'm currently going through my New Game Plus right now, so I haven't had a chance to actually play this since this new patch, but I feel very indifferent about this. Now, I totally feel for people who really want to play this game, and unfortunately, it's just a little too...
I think that the solution to the problems with the game wasn't to nerf the bosses, it was to make the animations more clean and less floaty and drunken fightery. I think that's really what the solution was in not nerfing the bosses. I don't think the boss's health or damage was really that much out of line. And, like, yeah, it was very challenging and it was hard. But the primary difficulty from Lies of P comes with the fact that monsters who recover from animations don't fully recover from their animations. And oftentimes they just begin their next attack during the recovery animation from the last attack, which makes it very hard to predict and understand what the different bosses are going to do. And also, there's a lot of things in the game that are like feints, where like the monster, I think the first boss is a good example of this, right? The monster holds his hand up like this, right? And it's like he's gonna swing you, and then he puts his hand down and he does a sweep. And it's very confusing for the player because I think it's intentionally misleading. And having a few of those is okay, but whenever the majority of the game is comprised of that, and the difficulty factors in the game are, I think, primarily derived from animations or attacks that are designed to roll catch you, and things that are just designed in order to punish certain types of gameplay, it feels like you're playing against like an algorithm rather than playing against a real NPC. And I want to say also, I think Lies of P is probably the best Souls-like game that's ever been made. So, like, I think it's a great game, but I think the bosses are bad. I think the bosses and the animations of the game are just bad. Straight up. I mean, fighting against the devs? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's fighting against the devs. And finish it? Yeah, I'll probably try to beat the game today. People call it Pussy Patch, need to play New Game Plus. Well, I don't really know about, like, because you can parry and dodge everything. Like, another hot take I guess I could have is that I think that the block mechanic is too strong. I do. I think it's too strong because you can recover too much of your health just through blocking. I think the block mechanic is too strong. I think the parry mechanic... So this is why I don't like the parry mechanic. And, like, this is a good way to describe it, right? So you have, like, the big boss, right? And, oops. He's got the big sword, and Sorry. Okay, and then so this is you. And like you are doing your parry, right? And so parry, and then what happens is your character goes backwards. So then what happens is you try to move forward and do your next attack with your sword, and it misses. So I think this is just kind of frustrating design. And that's really all it comes down to. It's not, and it's frustrating design that makes, and like, I think this is an example with like Lies of P, is that a lot of things in Lies of P, I think, make the game harder, but they don't make it better. They just kind of add difficulty through creating these like structural frustrations, like getting knocked away from the boss, or having to repair your weapon during combat, or having the animations be misleading. And also, I think there are some examples of the animations just simply being incomplete. Like, if you watch at, like, frame by frame, and I'll give you an example of a mechanic like this. There's actually two mechanics like this. The first example of the mechanic is the grab that the swamp monster does in the second phase whenever he, like, merges with the robot. Whenever he does the grab, the animation for the grab is broken. And you don't actually see the second half of it. And if you look at it frame by frame, you'll see that. And then also, in the last boss, Simon Manus, whenever you fight him and he does the 3 swings kind of like on the ground that are like 360s, after that, he follows it up with like an overhead slam. And whenever he does that, if you watch that overhead slam, there are only about 3 frames on the screen, and I have a 144 hertz monitor, actually 165. There are only about 3 frames on the screen that you have to actually see the animation of the hammer coming down. So it's, again, like, the animations are, like, physically inconsistent, and they are misleading. Whereas, like, in Elden Ring, a monster swings their arm like this, or they are, swing like this. Now, there are bullshit things that happen in Elden Ring, and I'll call those out too. But I think that in general, the goal should be to have fluid, clean animations that are difficult to learn, but at the same time, whenever you understand them, they are easy to predict. And I think that one of the problems with Lies of P is that the animations and the recovery animations are 95% the same thing. I think Simon Manus is another great example of this, where like his animation to put his hammer on his back and wait to do his next attack combo, and his animation to put his hammer like this are almost the exact same thing. And I find that to be problematic. And is this an element of difficulty that makes the game harder? Yes, it is. However, I don't think it makes the game more fun, and I think that it makes learning the game not enjoyable. And I would say that I didn't really enjoy doing most of the bosses in Lies of P. I think that one of the only good bosses, and I even think that there are a lot of stupid things with this boss, is Leaxia, or whatever the fuck her name is, like the second to last boss. I think at the end of the day, I just didn't have fun learning the bosses because it felt like I was getting killed by too many cheap tricks. And I think also another big problem of this is, I'll do another graph. So you're fighting against, let's say, the Archbishop, okay? So you've got the head, the 2 arms, right? And then here's the body, and then here's you. About this size, right? The problem is that the camera is this big. So whenever he does his forward attack and then his left attack, he also does a right attack. But you don't get to see that right attack because the camera field of view makes it to where you can't know it, but you can just, after you fuck it up enough times, it's like, oh, okay, I know this is coming. So basically what happens, and this is also the problem with Simon Manus as well, and I'll explain it with him. Let's see. So this is Simon Manus. Okay. And then he's got the big arm. And then the hammer. Actually, let me just do this. The hammer. Right. And so, just a minute. And then here's you. Okay, and so let's see the camera again. But you have to avoid the hammer. So, this is an example of the camera making the game harder. Whereas, like, if the camera was zoomed out more, the boss would be easier. But I also think the boss would be better. Elden Ring has that same problem. Elden Ring does have that same problem, but, like, for example, Demon of Hatred in Sekiro doesn't, because it zooms you out more. And Elden Ring also does allow you to zoom out against some other bosses. And also, that's a bad thing in Elden Ring too. So I think Lies of P, how can I determine if a boss is going to be good or bad in Lies of P? The smaller the boss is, the better the boss is. The bigger the boss is, the worse the boss is. And why is that? It's because of bad animations and bad field of view. Every Souls game has this problem except for Sekiro. I don't know. I mean, I think that, like, to an extent, you're right. It just kind of depends. Like, again, you'd have to go with, like, specific examples from, like, you know, which boss had this problem specifically in which phase, etc. So, like, because people say, oh, this game had this problem, but, like, which boss was it? Which boss was it that had that problem? So, I think, again, people... I think people, like, create these arguments, but they don't really know what they're talking about. Anyway, all the big bosses, like, name one. Name one. Your take is very controversial, but you might be onto something here. It's not controversial, it's just true. Name one. Fire Giant? Okay, so... Rotten Tree thing? No. So here's what the difference is. So the reason why it's okay in Dark Souls 3, and the reason why it's okay with Fire Giant, is because not being able to see the attack most of the time means that you're also out of the animation of the attack hitting you. Do you see kind of what I'm saying? So, like, for example, the fallen, like, the tree spirit will attack you like this, but if you're underneath his arm, it doesn't hit you. But the difference is in Lies of P, it does hit you. Hard disagree? This isn't... Oh, no. You must be misunderstanding. This isn't an opinion. This is like an objective fact. I've played the game. Yeah, this is not an opinion. You don't get to disagree with this. This is just the way that the way it works. And the Seed Beasts in Elden Ring. Seed Beasts, yes. So here's a really great example. And I said this. Remember I said this whenever I played Lies of P. I said that Lies of P, the boss design in Lies of P is like if the corrupted tree spirits, if their hitbox was their entire body. Imagine how fucking just absolutely awful that would be. And that's the way it is in Lies of P. Divine Dragon boss in Sekiro? That's not true. Have you done the boss? So the way it works is that you stand on multiple clouds, and then you jump up as he lays his sword down. He like swings his sword down, and he does literally one attack. It's a gimmick boss. How are you gonna use? It's literally a gimmick boss, and it's easy. How are you gonna use that as an example? And it zooms way out. It's crazy to me that people, and this is it, right? So this is just like some bullshit. You have to fight these guys, and then, okay, yeah, here we go. So you look at that. You can clearly see the entire weapon. You can see the entire weapon. You know exactly when it's coming down. The animation is completely clean, very fluid. You know when the lightning is going to happen as well. Like, what are you talking? Like, what? Like, have you, dude? What are you doing? You need to play these games, man. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about. It's crazy people use these examples. So anyway, Dark Souls 2 Last Giant had hand attacks out of view. One more example. All right. I think actually the reason why I'm going to use your example is because I think it's a good example to actually prove my point. So do you see how you're able to walk underneath the monster's legs and the hitbox of the attack doesn't punish the player for not being able to see it? Because the player isn't anywhere near the attack? And so let's look at another one. So you see like the foot there. Okay, see he wasn't in the foot. And also like the Liza P has this exact same mechanic from the Puppet of the Future boss. Literally the exact same mechanic. Like, actually, this is basically Puppet of the Future, now that I think about it. So, and that's my point, right? Is that while Dark Souls has monsters that you can't see their entire attack, see? Whenever he can actually see the attack, he is far enough away from the boss to see the attack. I don't know how that didn't hit him. But, like, obviously, he could have dodged out of it. See the deal with Dark Souls because iframes and dodging and the bosses were less designed like this? No, it's not. It has to do with the hitboxes of the attacks and the way that the attacks sweep the screen. Like, for example, there. You are able to see... So, in Lies of P, you would be this close... You would be up here on the boss, and you would have to avoid this attack. And if you didn't, it would hit you. That's the difference. Because this attack doesn't hit you if you're right here. It only hits you because you're standing far enough back in order for you to see it. What you're seeing is if they can see it, they can dodge it. Yes, in most cases, most of the attacks that you can't see because of your camera view in Dark Souls or Elden Ring are not attacks that you have to worry about. Whereas in Lies of P, they are all attacks that you have to worry about. Which makes it the camera problems that Elden Ring has less severe. Maybe the dude in the video counters it. I don't know. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hard for them. I feel that. I really do. But on the same coin, this is a Souls-like. It is meant to be difficult. And
That's such a stupid thing to say. Dark Souls 1 is a joke, Elden Ring is a joke, Dark Souls 3 is a joke. Every one of these bosses can be literally one-shot with buffs. You can see 15 different videos that's like the fucking Overlord versus Shaltir, fucking precasting 17 different spells, going in, one-shotting Melania. Like this, at level 1... Like, look, again, like, we're going to go ahead, we're going to counter this point of view. Rune, level 1, one shots. Melania. Okay. See if I can find it. Just a one-shot. I'm actually, you know what? There might not be a one-shot. I thought there was. I think I might be wrong about this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am wrong about this. Well, let's look at a higher level. There is? I thought there was. Like, I thought I saw one. Rune level 1. One shot. Oh, I get it. Yeah, second one. I mean, yeah, there is this. Like, I've seen this, right? So here we go. Okay. So this is just the traditional... Can't type because you're going too fast to get this invalid point across. Okay. Alright. I'm going to explain... the two ways that you're wrong. Number one, you're wrong because the search terms in Google do not necessarily have to take syntax into account. So as long as it contains those different terms, they don't necessarily have to be in order, which is why I didn't bother to reorder them. I know this because I've been using Google. Apparently had its 25th year anniversary. I remember it on its first year anniversary. I was there 3,000 years ago. Number 2, why is my point invalid? Go ahead, explain yourself. I hate how he belittles people. Well, time to belittle me. Explain to me how I'm wrong. This is your chance. This is your chance for justice. This is your chance to set things right. Stop arguing with him. I don't know who this guy is. You're supposed to be arguing with me. Just stop fucking adding that guy. I don't care. Explain my invalid point. Not talking to me, right? I don't care. So you concede that I'm right. And that my point is completely valid. And that I'm totally right. I understand this 1,000 times better than you do. And you're sitting in chat talking shit. Is that right? Because now you don't care anymore. Which makes you feel better about the fact that you were wrong. And you can't defend yourself. Is that right? Don't care about what my god. Oh my god. Oh god. No, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. No. We're gonna get to the bottom of this. Can't type because so you said his invalid point. What is the point that I have that is invalid? No. Oh no. You're not getting out of this. You said you hate how I belittle people, so I'm sure you're enjoying this. Go ahead. What was my invalid point? No one's getting to the bottom of anything? It seems that way. You're doing your best to make sure that's not the case. And I know why. And you know why too. You do know why. That's why you're upset. Actually not enjoying anything. You're being a complete asshole, Lamau. How am I being an asshole? How am I being an asshole? I'd like to know. I'm curious. Do I really need to explain? Yes. Yes, go ahead. We're waiting. Yes, you do. Go ahead and explain. I sure hope he's gonna have a good point. I'm away, mate. Honestly, thought you was a better man than this. You're actually pathetic doing this to viewers and content creators. Really? Because this is my favorite part of my stream. I love doing this. And you know what my favorite thing about it is? Is that I'm gonna keep doing it. It's funny. And you know what the funniest thing about it is? The fact that despite all of the time that I've given you to explain yourself, and you've been typing all this other stuff, you haven't once been able to actually explain what you were trying to say in the first place, because you don't really even know what it is. Calls out the stream when put on the spot, doesn't explain himself. Yeah, I gave him a time to explain this, and he unfollowed the stream. I don't blame him, man. He needs to follow an English stream. Anyway. Maybe he'll learn something. So, obviously, as with anything, this is just the way things go. He's going through all the buffs. And so this is Elden Ring. This is the hardest boss in Elden Ring. This makes you do 20% more damage. This is Terra Magica, makes you do more magic damage. He's putting on different items right there. Seppuku gives him blood loss. He has an item, that helmet there, causes him to do increased damage whenever he has blood loss in vicinity. And he's probably going to use Carrion Slicer, and of course the sword that he's using boosts Carrion Sorceries. It's in Japanese, but I know what's going on, right? And there it is, 21,000 damage. And he says, wait, there's more. And she's dead. And so that's the hardest boss in the game. It's Korean? Oh, is it? Yeah, for sure. But yeah, anyway, the point is that Elden Ring has a lot of ways, and Dark Souls has a lot of ways to beat every... Like, I thought Korean had, like, circles and shit in it. That's Chinese, because, like, Japanese is, like, all pointy and shit, and then Korean's got the circles and shit, and then Chinese, I have no fucking idea. I don't think Soulsborne games are designed to be... like massive fucking like super omega dick punishing. And I think the truth is that in a lot of the Soulsborne games, besides probably Sekiro, there are a lot of easy modes in the game.
Really do. But on the same coin, this is a Souls-like. It is meant to be difficult, and I've seen a lot of unnecessary hate to this game's difficulty, mainly from Bloodborne purists and from software.
Again, all of the problems, I actually think that the difficulty of the bosses is totally fine. It's how the difficulty is arrived at that's the problem to me.
Fanboys that just, oh, this is broken, it's clunky.
It is broken. Like, there are animations and hitboxes that are just broken. Like, it's just true. Like, I don't know why people like this. Like, here's the problem, right? Is whenever you make excuses for bad game design, you get bad game design. Can people overcome bad game design? Absolutely. But overcoming bad game design does not make it good.
Absolutely wrong. I watched an excellent video on this the other day talking about how I think a lot of people are struggling in this game because they want to play this like Elden Ring or Bloodborne, and you should not do either of those. You need to play this like Lies of P. This game urges you to mix and match different playstyles. You cannot dodge and roll out of every situation. Some will have to be blocked, parried. Throwables actually do things here, so you should definitely use them.
That's a good point there. He's right about that. Throwables are extremely strong in Lies of P in a way that they're not strong in many of the other games. Definitely true. But I think that this is kind of a weird argument that you have to play the game like Lies of P and not like Elden Ring and Bloodborne, whenever Lies of P is derived from Elden Ring and Bloodborne, and it has the same mechanics as Elden Ring and Bloodborne. So, like, what are we really talking about here? It's its own game, though? It is its own game, but, like, what does he mean by that? Like, it's something that sounds good, but whenever, like, and also, like, you have to keep in mind, the criticism that he's responding to is that there are animations that are bad. And that's just true. You can look frame by frame and you'll see that the animations are bad. I gave 2 examples of it. Just do it yourself. Like, I don't know what to say.
A lot of these enemies have weaknesses. For example, the puppets have heavy weakness with electricity. As harsh as it sounds, I really do think the game is...
Dark Souls has the same thing. That's from Dark Souls. Like, again, it's the same thing. Like, this isn't some kind of like new idea.
It's very fair. Almost every time that I died, it was because of my own doing. Like I said, this game has gotten a weird critical reception, even from fans of like From Software, again, because it's like, oh, it's not the same. It is ridiculously similar. And in your very own words, get good.
Yep, I think that, again, stuff like this sounds good to say, but I think it invalidates genuine criticism that helps games improve and get better. And I think that a lot of the people that say stuff like this, I think that they don't really even understand what they're saying. Because if you actually looked at the animations and you actually looked at the way the game played, I think that you would arrive at the conclusion that it is a phenomenal game, but there are shortcomings with the design of certain attacks and animations and hitboxes. This is just an objective fact. I don't know why people are trying to like get around this or hide from this. Graphically speaking, it's pretty good. Graphically speaking, it's amazing. I think it's great. Yeah. I don't think he's saying it's flawless. He's saying that people are nitpicking. Well, of course people are going to talk about the negatives in the game. Yeah, I mean, especially whenever the negatives punish you. Like, it's one thing for the negatives to just be, like, kind of annoying, right? It's like, you know, mob variety. Like, I think there's a lot of things that Lies of P does, like, insanely well. Like, for example, like, mob variety is better than in a lot of AAA games. Like, it's actually so good, it's insane. You guy's a TikToker, not a real person, let alone a gamer. Well, I'm sure he's played the game. I just think that, you know, whenever you actually evaluate the different bosses' attacks, you'll see that I think my point is pretty solid. Pretty solid. I feel like defending bad game design is a lose-lose situation for everyone involved. Yeah, I think it is too. I agree, animations, those big elite robots are bad, mostly on all big enemies. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, anyway, that's generally what I think. I'll read a few of the comments. Obviously, I'd want to talk about this anyway. Souls-like supposed to be hard, then why is From Software the GOAT? They don't listen to this kind of criticism, they just stick with their formula. I mean, again, like, yeah, it's just... people are just shit at games. It's not people are shit at games. Like, I think, yeah, Lies of P is a very hard game, but again, I think the difficulty comes from things that are kind of stupid. Probably clip them on stream. I also point out the issue was the game's combat. That's how it went for mobile. Basically, it doesn't like the bosses with delay the actual strike. Sit there and wait for you to fuck up. Mention this is one of his bosses, Dragon's Dogma 2, where he praises the game for having many bosses with clearly choreographed and understandable attacks. Yeah, I don't like delay attacks. I don't. I think that they're cheap, and I think they're artificial difficulty. Yeah, but I'm not, like, again, me not liking delay attacks had nothing to do with anything that I said in the last 30 minutes. I didn't mention delay attacks at all, because I understand that delay attacks, while I don't like them, it's not that they're not fundamentally broken. Like, I'm talking about things that are broken. The big difference, very big difference. But yeah, the point, do a showcase of delay attacks. I don't have time to do everything, but like all I'm saying is that I think that the devs probably, like, it's probably easier to just nerf the health of the bosses than actually make the mechanics cleaner, just because from a technical perspective, I'm assuming. But I do hope that over time and like with the next game they make, they'll be able to like clean that up and make it better.